As above, so below. Welcome all to the North American Challengers Relegation Tournament. THNK and Keg here to take you through the first of the two-day tournament that we will see two teams come out of to make it to that mid-season cup. Keg, it's been a while since we've gotten to cast together. How are you, man?
I'm feeling good, dude. I'm feeling good. And I gotta say, we've seen a lot through the open quals. That's the last time you and I worked with each other. And we've seen all these teams before, but now that they're facing relegation, they've upgraded so much over the last few months, but only two of these teams can survive the relegations.
It's true, yeah. In case you've been living under a rock, let's kind of give you the rundown of how today's going to work. So, two teams over the course of the North American Challengers season fell to the bottom of their groups. They'll be competing in today's tournament against two teams that made it through first their premier games that they've been playing over the course of this season, and then through an open tournament that took the four best teams from both sides of the country and pitted them against each other. The top two teams, in fact, the best from the West and the best from the East, Blinn College and Resonate, will be facing off against those two teams from the North American Challengers League, Thinking Men and the Glazers. Keg, you and I get to touch on, first of all, this first winners match game, and then we'll get to see the first team to make it into that mid-season cup in the winners finals later tonight, and then tomorrow we'll have both of those elimination matches.
I mean, there's so much to talk about, even from the play-ins leading into the relegation bracket, that, seeing a team like Resonate make it this far in has been a golden opportunity for the teams. And each and every one of these teams that have made it to this small bracket do have a huge story to tell, but we only have so much time in the day, right? That it's like whichever team wins over another, there's like another facet to the story. It's like a visual novel almost.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of chapters that have already been written, in particularly the two teams that we get to cover. It's such a complicated story that we kind of have to start it now, and then we'll have to continue it once we get into the game. But let's start with Resonate, because I feel that's low-key the elephant in the room right now, because they came out of nowhere this season. I feel like we're in a Mean Girls She Doesn't Even Go Here type deal watching this team fly by, because not only did they make it to the top of the West in the Premier League, but they went on a Cinderella run through the lower bracket to make it to this tournament. Now, I mean, their performance was astounding in the bitter end, beating Zero Marksman to make it here.
Yeah, and look, if you're only familiar with Challengers and watching VCT, you probably don't know names like Zero Marksman or Prospects or even like Resonate too much, but the fact that they lost so early on into the upper bracket seemed expected from Resonate, but the fact that they not only beat out really big fish in that sector of Val, like Van Lin, Burger Boys, you have Zero Marksman all falling, it was flawless at the same exact time. It is a Cinderella run, I do agree with that, but this is where they finally go to the ball. They have to be able to dance this through.
It's so crazy watching them because we haven't gotten to watch them that much before as well. I think that's kind of
not even this iteration
driving at this because this team does not play in events. They haven't been playing all off season. Granted, there hasn't been too much to do. All Blinn has really been able to do is play in the Fun Haver Invitationals, which we'll get to them later. But Resonate, in between the OQ, you know what they did? Nothing! Diddly squat! Yeah. They did nothing! Two of their players, which by the way, one of them is getting subbed out for the other, so really only one player on the roster today has been playing in anything. And you know what? He's been doing pretty dang well. On the SFU Pink roster, both Kaho and Kane made it to third in CVAL Spring just this past weekend. So these players, they're lit. They're ready to go. They have the comps. They have the maps. They have a lot of places that they prefer to go. And we're going to see a lot of strengths come into this best of three, especially against a Thinking Men squad that may not have it all figured out yet.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to Thinking Men, I think, you look at their stat line, right? These are all the teams they had faced up against. Now, the lore here is that on week one, they faced up against YFP. They had a different IGL at the time. They dropped them and replaced them back with Lear after the first week. And then guess what happens after the first week? You still have to scrim. You have to make sure you have that chemistry down, but you have to run this gauntlet of the top three teams on their side of the bracket. I mean, Moist Shopify, they haven't dropped the series yet, but it's easy for us to say that Thinking Men have been perpetually unlucky throughout the entirety of the split, and that's why they're in the relegations, but that doesn't absolve them of the issues that they've had as a team too. Their most dominant map that they've had so far was against Moist Shopify. They're one of two teams that have taken a single map off of them in the entirety of this Challengers run, but at the same time, they're a team that makes a lot of small mistakes as an individual, and so we'll see oftentimes on retakes, no coordination, lack of trades, utility doubling up or not even at all being there. And this is something that Thinking Men need to clean up here for relegations if they want to survive the second split.
And it comes off of such a huge change that this team made, because talking about that unlucky streak that they got, it all culminated into that final match that they had against Together We Are Terrific in their final week,
which they won.
Yeah, they won. They barely scraped it by. 2 overtime wins in those last 2 maps, and it came at the hands of massive change. 4 of the 5 maps that they have played multiple times over the course of this season, for the last time they played those maps, they completely changed their composition. It was absolutely ridiculous, and I'm wondering how much of that change we'll see continue to gestate into this tournament. But it comes at the hands of the maps that we kind of figured they were going to go to. I mean, Split and Ascent are literally the bread and butter of both of these teams throughout their tenures.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because that's the second most banned map coming out from THNK, at least through their Challengers run. This has been a really tough map for the team. Split makes a lot more sense. It's one of the most dominant team maps that both these teams have had. But through the bans themselves, this is a very different THNK. They allowed Breeze to go through quite a ways, and even just Resonate banned it out as one of the last maps. That is the hard ban of the team. So suddenly speaking, it seems like the map pool for THNK has grown a lot larger than it has in the past. And now there's only limited data for Resonate. We really only have Premier's playoffs to work with here. But even then, the map pool overall has been so small for Resonate that no matter where they go, it seems like at the very least THNK should have some sort of tangible advantage over them.
And that's why, like you said, Resonate is instead trying to attack the weak points of THNK. There's a lot more film for them to study, and like you said, Ascent so far has kind of been where THNK dropped the ball. They came very close when they had that radical change against Core back in week 4, 11-13, so I'm wondering if they feel a little bit better. Maybe they've gone back to NA Comp. I don't know what they're going to do. We'll find out as we go. But like you said, Resonate, they definitely have a couple gaps to fill in that we'll see over the course of this. But as we saw in the Open Qualifier, which they've been playing with this sub and Kaho up until this point, they clearly have enough in the pool to keep going. And like you said, these big ticket teams that we've seen come to Gauntlet after Forge after Qualifier after whatever, that continuously dethroned Resonate since September when this team formed. We have seen crazier things, and I'm excited to see what they bring to the table today.
I'm super excited too, man. Split's going to be one of the most interesting maps I think we get to see in this entire tournament. The way we've seen both, well, hypothetically have seen, I suppose, Resonate so far has been very different from the footage we actually have from THNK. THNK has been a team that is relatively aggressive, but they've been a team that struggles against aggression too. We've been seeing a lot of these lower, well, I don't want to say lower end teams, but a lot of the teams that haven't found wins in Challengers have struggled against teams that just start their defense very overwhelmingly strong in your face. Turtle Troop's a great example. But with that being said though, this has been a big double dive team for Resonate. They're going to bring out that double dive team once again. Now keep in mind, this is a stall comp too for Resonate outside of the 2 duelists. They have a Sage. That wall has to go mid. They don't have a Viper anymore to rely on that wall for any conditioning or fakes. Now if THNK can break that wall as soon as possible, that's going to be a very big struggle for Resonate to hold down the defense. Now here's another interesting thing. Conti has just been only playing Sage. So that means we're going to be seeing Sage on Ascent in this next map. If THNK can find out his tendencies in particular, this is going to be a big struggle for Resonate, not only this map, but for the next map to come.
Yeah, Conti's pool has got to roll deep if Resonate wants to come out on top, especially on their attacks. As THNK, like you said, they're able to meet these approaches really quickly as long as the counter push isn't too strong. And again, we haven't really seen enough of Resonate in order to prove if they can do that yet. On the other side, this is the one comp that remains unchanged from THNK's mass exodus of comp switch-ups that they had in the tail end of the Challenger season. This is pre-patch, so Viper can still pick up that orb as well. That's important information to keep in mind too. So the repositioning from Vix is probably going to be a little more consistent in mid than we would normally see.
Yeah, oftentimes with THNK, we get to see that double crossfire between Vix, and that secondary player changes around a lot. Usually it's either between Scrubble Bubble or Paint at times, but the lockdown procedures that we see from THNK has been really good. Of course, they're starting off on the attack first. We get to worry about that later, but the attack here for THNK should be very slow. They need to break that Sage wall immediately, go back to defaults, and they have so many options open where they could just bait out those two duelists, find the opening pick, and strike from there.
Exactly. That's going to be a lot of what it is. It's just baiting. It's throwing out that hook
and
seeing who tries to bite it. Exactly. Looking for the peek from those opening duelists, or even wasting a smoke or a wall somewhere and picking where it's not. That's going to be a lot of this attack is kind of just Thinking Men playing with their food until they find the right thing to bite into. Of course, we do have a quick tech pause for round 1. We will probably have one for round 2 as well. That's important to mention. But in the meantime, if you're interested and you have the extra RAM space, please pull up that extra tab and watch this other game we got going on. Glazers versus Blinn College being played simultaneously over on the Knights Arena stream. That's ops only. That's going to be a banger match that you should definitely have in the back of your mind, like we will, because the team that wins that faces the team that wins this, and then the team that wins that already moves on mid-season cup and has the absolute honor of playing against SAD Esports in their first match. God, what a great...
yeah, it's a little rough, but it's been an absolute... Yeah, it's been a big spiderweb, though, when it comes to relegations, and this is going to be a big story that we have to just kind of mine apart whenever we have the opportunity to do so. So I think the biggest lay of the land, right, is going to revolve around Blinn. Now, Blinn's not playing in this matchup, but it's important to have them as that big anchor figure because they're the ones that have tied up both Thinking Men and Glazers. Thinking Men, they've beaten pretty much every team in this bracket already. Now, Resonate's the example because through the playoffs, I gotta be honest with you, man, I did not think they'd make it through.
It's such a weird...
Yeah, like of all the teams, right? Of all the teams, like you have Meow Control, you have Van Lin, Zero Marksman. These have all been teams that not only have been dominating like that tier 3 space, but they've been playing at LANs and winning LANs at the same exact time.
Meow Control was the one team to beat Resonate, not only in Premier, but they're the team that sent Resonate to the lower bracket in the open tournament too.
Yeah, and they're also a team that's like not really well known in terms of the players either, so it's like, okay, that makes a little bit more sense. But then out of nowhere, Resonate does not drop a single map going all the way through to qualify for relegations. Yeah. This is the biggest tournament for all of these players. Not just Challengers proper, no. The relegation is the biggest tournament for I want to say Renaissance, but it's Resonate. So here's the thing, though. Thinking Men, that might be their biggest advantage going into this. They have that experience buff. They've all had very high-level experience, very high level of play, and Thinking Men, they want to use that right here on Pistol Round with a very explosive start. Maybe not so explosive.
Stepping up to the plate in their own ways for this tournament. A lot on the line. Thinking Men gonna start making that approach. Paint in the fire and flames, as per usual. Gonna start throwing those shots into screens. Just so Resonate takes a bit more time and hopping back after the post plant, which is still not finalized, as Lyra's a little stuck in the cubby, throwing all that util out, making sure he's not caught on the way.
Big delay right now. Resonate playing so patiently, waiting for that plant to go down, for the gigantic flood in for the retake. Not a lot of heaven control, except for Conti. Oh, but they're dry swinging this completely. They have no backup at all as they fall first.
And this has got to be the moment for the rest of Resonate to move in. They got to do it before Thinking Men thinks they can. And so Kaho's going to jump down, grab his. And now KHS can hop into the mix, rotating through screens, grabbing his as well. Resonate trading first, trading early, leading to a 2v1 though, after Vix scoots around the back. It'll leave the window open for Scrubble Bubble to grab his third for the round and give Thinking Men the opening.
A lot of patience coming out from these teams right at the beginning here. Respect for the Viper Wall, of course, in the beginning from Resonate, top of heaven. But for the most part, Thinking Men, they were just waiting for Resonate to get overly eager and go for those fights, but they never did. Resonate's patience early on may be a good indicator of how they've been able to go flawlessly through the lower bracket to get into the relegations in the beginning. Their team, at least one round in that we can see, focuses a lot on big level communication. Now, the gunfights here were pretty even overall, not a lot of utility used from their end, but they've been able to re-clear a lot of space up against Thinking Men, but the big issue was they just weren't able to shoot back yet.
And that comes at the hands, not necessarily primarily from spacing, but, having such a concise stack from Thinking Men and then having Paint be that immediate extender helps just pull the rest of the team onto site so much more easily, like a big four-man dog on a leash.
Yeah, it's going to be tough too, right? Because the player with a literal dog isn't available for Resonate.
Right.
They don't have an initiator at all. So Resonate, they have to focus on these contact plays. Kaho's util can only do so much, and the Cypher util and Sage to boot, both have to be a gigantic stall. It's going to be hard to babysit all this utility, and that's why a lot of eyes have to fall on KHS and Andrew. The supporting staff need to support them as much as humanly possible, but for the defensive side, dude, that's going to be really hard when your only flash is Velas's.
Exactly. I was just thinking about that. Yeah, no true flashes to enable your duelists. And that's not only the MO of Thinking Men, but that's a lot of the MO of just playing split retakes. Like, you throw a flash out and you let your duelist go bonkers.
Well, here's the thing, though.
And for that matter, Andrew has been one of the highest killers from this tournament so far. So if anything, that feels like a strong suit you should lean into.
Well, this is going to be tough, right? Because oftentimes when you think of a split retake, right, you want to kind of utilize that Viper at least a little bit more.
Yeah.
There is no Viper for Resonate. This is such a weird comp.
Yeah.
And now it's designed for the attacking side. Both these teams, they entirely rely on getting those opening picks and then kind of just snowball from there towards the end of the round. So if Resonate keeps getting denied that opening star, they're going to really struggle a lot. And that's where the mental is going to come into play. This is going to be another strong start for Thinking Men, though. 4 attached to B main. Andrew's already set up and ready for the shields, and this nade into the blast pack might be kind of huge. Oh, but there's no blast pack. No ways of gaining distance.
They're just gonna walk it in. Conti's the early sight line, but can't counter the peak. Andrew's actually gonna throw the paint shells back with a little bit of chip damage, but Thinking Men's already on the way through. Now in the 4v1, they should be able to clean this up pretty easily. Resonate not gonna be able to get back or collude in time. Reformed in the meanwhile, able to take care of his fight in mid, so it'll just be KHS with a Sheriff for this post-plant. Thinking Men keeping it clean.
Yeah, and Resonate right now, biggest goal is just to take away guns, hurt the economy as much as they can for this second round, make them reinvest, rebuy into the next round. It's easier said than done when you only have a Sheriff. Hey, at least it's one, but not enough to really call home to hurt the economy of Thinking Men. But this is where things get spicy. Full rifles in the hands of Resonate. They are not a team that wins these opening rounds. They rely solely on these rifles to overwhelm their enemy team. This is where they can have a huge swing round, dude.
Yeah, it really does need to... it doesn't need to be soon. That's a lie. It doesn't need to be soon. But it does need to be sometime this half. You just need to get half of your team into the right spot before they plant so that you can play the rest of the fight out after. Because I feel like with the speed that Thinking Men are coming with, you're not going to be able to play the full retake game, especially if you're peeking this heavily in, which Velas is doing, watching the one-way. But most of the push is going to be towards A side for now.
Interesting. No stall capabilities in mid whatsoever. Thinking Men, though, of course, A-side control. Smoke goes down. Free access towards top heaven. 2 duelists, though, watching the other end. That's a scary moniker to see. Outlaw can only do so much. But what concerns me here is that mid's completely open.
But it's not going to be checked at all by Thinking Men. Lear and Payne are really committed to this push together, even though there's so much space to control. And with the Outlaw, you just can't get a good TTK if you miss one shot. So 2v1 is won by Resonate. I keep thinking it's like Resolute or something as well.
It's a whole bunch of different.
Dude,
we can pull in the dictionary.
New team just dropped. We really gotta lock in.
Let's see. We have Renaissance. We have. What did you say it was? Resolute.
I was thinking Resolute.
We'll say Resolve next.
One. Yeah, we'll get Resolve next.
Well, here's the thing though. Spike was never in the possession of Thinking Men. Yeah. They baited out this huge entryway towards top of A heaven, and now they do have Scrubble Bubble up there. Only 2 ult points off of using their teleport. They're probably not going to use it this round. Thinking Men love these late round executions. They don't know about Kaho's utility and where it's at.
Yeah, the thing is, there's no reason for anybody on Resonate to peek. They're so certain with Kaho's util up. And now here in the steps from Reformed, you can maybe start to swing a little bit. Anderson still has this space though, and so if you miss even one, then it's kind of Jover. Kaho will Vix the late entry, the late kill. Andrew a little more ready, can take down the post-plant keeper in Reform. That leaves the site very open, but that's not where we're headed to. We still got to take out tower. Conti v Vix in this 3v1 that Andrew's going to start holding on to. Vix has got to hurry up. Andrew's just going to hold this down. Velas with the sightline held. Vix beats that, but can't spam through the smoke in time. Beyond close, but close enough for Resonate.
And it's plays like that at the very end that put Thinking Men into relegation. They are a team that have the right ideas, they have the right calls, and they know how to coordinate as a team, as a unit. But when it comes down to individual plays, those simple misses might not seem like a lot for one round, but it's what defines all the losing maps that they've had. They consistently make these small mistakes that add up. And Thinking Men, this is their tournament to correct that, fix it up now. And with another seemingly fast execute once again towards B, they have to overwhelm Velas. They can't stall here.
Yeah, they need to go. Any bit of time is good enough for Resonate to start moving over, and they already have. But Thinking Man, is this enough noise to completely bait over? It looks like they've got 4 hooked. Meanwhile, Kaho gonna stay put over in tower, but Thinking Men, this round is not even close to over. They could reposition twice more if they wanted to.
Oh, that smoke goes down. Thinking Men aren't gonna know where that sage wall lies. It's open. This is the first time they've pounced through mid. This may give them a good indicator from here on out. The push mid. Oh, Vix. Oh, Vix, no. Now that they rotate back to be heaven, but look, there's a wall in the way.
They're gonna have to burn this down. They don't know how quickly they can push this, so Thinking Man has to take a breath. That leaves enough time for Resonate to come back in through CT, so it'll be a 4v4, but a couple sightlines to manage, and Paint is the one with the highest. 2 gone for him, but now Tower the invasion will begin, and Conti's the one to watch over that. 1 gone, playing with the smoke, but Reformed is unchecked and not beaten. Paint, 1 more for the road. Thinking Men match that 3 rounds tall.
It's really interesting what Conti wants to achieve with this wall so far. Keep in mind, again, going through this tournament, no footage of Resonate was available to see how they want to play these tendencies. Thinking Men are figuring out how this defense works in real time. Wall has gone down in very unusual spots thus far. No Viper available. Velas dedicating those smokes directly onto A choke for the most part of these early rounds. This wall, though, may start to default through mid. Thinking Men think from here, hey, I think mid might be open from here on out.
Mayhaps. Or maybe it's just getting like, mildly babysat by Conti right now, who seems to have found a bit of a purpose on the defense so far, but certainly not barriering mid every round like you see.
And that's so weird to me. Like, every team does that, though, because a lot of teams, they'll default straight into mid.
I guess they see the lack of mid control that Thinking Men are going for, because again, you really need to extend off of Lear and Paint, and so if you are attacking through mid, it's going to be a crunch anyway, so I guess maybe Resonate just prefer to hold down that main line anyway.
But it's usually a good access early on to push through and get those early picks inside of mid and rotate through sewers. This is nerve-wracking, though.
I mean, no one's here. They'll completely back out. They'll respect this dog so hard. Wow. And this can, I mean, this isn't a conditioning wall. This is purely a pushing wall that Vix is using to at least get out of this first cubby, just because Thinking Men haven't done much clearing, but they'll do it all in one little cough up tower, in which everybody's
What
upstairs.
is this call?
Yeah, now we go through vents, we're gonna head through tower. This is all the time in the world for Resonate to poke back through, but that's why Scrubble Bubble has TP'd on over to backside. Pain will win his 1v, Pain will win another 1v, and Thinking Men have gotten this done. Everyone's stuck in the back, the Cypher ult to guarantee, and they have made this work. Nay, they have made this prosper nearly flawless for Thinking Men here as they grab their 4th.
What a smart round from Thinking Men. They're choosing purposely to avoid Kaho and Conti's utility entirely. They understand now that the Ohm is designed to be that hard anchor on B. There should be presence inside of B, Heaven and Vents to stop mid. And of course, that means back lines of A. That's the early pick. KHS falls, and there has to be the anchor of Cypher on A site. So if you sneak up through mid, the lack of initiation, the lack of info gathering from Resonate is going to make things very difficult to detect Thinking Men until the very end of a round, which allows them to rotate through B. Wow, look how proactive this is.
Wow, Andrew, huge showstopper, but Paint's got one of his own, and he wins that duel. And not stuck as well, as he'll just elongate over to Vents, now hold down against the potential offer. Reading this like a book.
Wow, unbelievable. And again, Resonate, they're a team that wants to fish for these opening picks. They need that early advantage in order to succeed. They've done that the entire play-in tournament to get to this point. But again, B's now opened up. Those tripwires not finding a whole lot of impact thus far. That's completely driven away. Kaho is forced to play for retake now.
Yeah, I mean, the camera already saw Vix. Vix isn't really scared of the trapwire after the fact. And when Paint has all this control and now an operator, dude, there's no telling what's going to happen. Anderson's weirdly not watching Conti at the moment, but that's because Conti's in a bit of a weird spot. It looks like these last 2 Sentinels are going to opt for the save. Yeah, there's not nearly enough time to get this done. There is too much Thinking Men in the way. In fact, there may be too much coming to you. Kaho might get squeezed here. Yeah, he senses it, and Conti's watching it, so Payne will at least get cut short. But now Anderson's stuck, so Kai's gonna catch that too. So a little bit of damage done here, but not super consequential at this point in the game. But Resonate can at least try to maintain a pace here, but so far, so great for Thinking Men. I mean, none of the strengths that could come from Resonate's comp have really gotten to shine so far.
I do like the proactivity that Resonate brought out this last round.
Absolutely.
Early sage wall towards A, trying to block off that early initiation, anchoring down B this time. A complete reversal now of where that Sentinel utility's meant to place. But Thinking Men, dude, like 11-4 from Paint. A timeout needs to come out. We just saw that before we went to the Zippo replays. Desperately needs to be made. The strategy right now, the whole stall strat has not worked for a single round on Resonate's side. They need to find a way to stop Paint, and they're struggling to think of an answer. And honestly, that answer has to come down to Andrew and KHS. They need to take a more aggressive sightlines at the start of the round. They cannot be fearful of Paint. Even if it's a one-and-done trade, removing Paint off the table start of round will even up the battlefield so much more for the defense.
I'm wondering if Vix is ever really gonna settle here. I feel like you
a family?
Yeah. When do you think Vix is gonna finally settle down after his long esteemed career? But no, I think he'll be more than willing to take this kid on the go if it means that Resonate can't be consistently aggressive, which feels like the beat that they're trying to strike is they're trying to find a moment in which they can tap in the same way that Thinking Men does on a particular site and just apply all that pressure to that one concentrated point, whether that's Paint if it's in the front, whether that's Reformed or Scrubble Bubble if it's in the back. But there's too much uncertainty right now, and if Vix keeps moving this screen, keeps like not putting everything down until the push is finalized, then they can maintain that. It's just obviously so much more housekeeping.
Yeah, that wall is a great retake wall on A site, but we haven't seen A site plant really be super successful yet from Thinking Men. Great op shot though. KHS had the right ideas. Unfortunately though, a big bait draw afterwards. You got rid of Vix, which is good, but this only promotes the lurk more from Reformed. He's the dedicated lurker of this team, and he always knows that proper timing. But THNK, it gets worse. There's no Sky to stop out that early lurk either. He could take so much space for free.
Yeah, and Payne has no trouble just holding this spot either. And that's mid-control handed back over. 3 vacating just so they can make sure that nobody's re-invaded. Nobody has. In fact, they fully rotated over to A site that Lear has entirely taken. Just every time the gap has been found so far, and now the double smoke to confirm, and Payne is still holding this down, but a little bit of an uncertainty himself will lead to a full opening and a res, so that Resonate is fully kitted for this retake.
Gigantic. We might see what happened last time Thinking Men went for an A plant. They almost brought it down to a 1v1, and they almost got the diffuser, but it just wasn't enough. Neural Theft 2 on top, finding so much information, but still a bit of a force buy. Kaho only has a Sheriff.
Rush in, so much is on KHS with this Blade Storm, who's gonna hit another one. Scrubble Bubble enters via the smoke. Lear can hold the spike down, and really they can just play for time now if they want to, but Kaho the safer peak. Enough time, enough players for Resonate to make it work and get a second round on the board.
And so far for Thinking Men, A-Side has been a big thorn against their side. Reformed from here, they've been able to take so much space top of heaven. This is a really good opportunity now. Resonate, force the babysit now top of heaven, or at least have some presence A from now on. Now, usually this means a Cypher like Kaho has to dedicate, at the very least, a spy cam top of heaven to make sure they can catch out a timing on that other Cypher, or any lurker, really. It looks like that won't be the case. But these are very aggressive trips, and that means B-Side's all the more open for another lurk coming through from Vix.
And he's been watching mainly from Garage. Like Thinking Men have been taking such safe standpoints whenever they're pre-push. They're never lurking too far in. They always have enough comms on what's cleared and whether or not these backlines are fully available, which at some point they've always been. Anderson now just waltzing up mid, opens up for 2, hops into Velis' sight line, not expecting that one. Quick 2v for the road. Now Thinking Men have mid control again if they want it, but as usual, they don't really want it. They're instead just gonna head back over to B main and play for that full aggression that has been able to consistently take down Velis so far. I have no doubt they're gonna do it again.
I mean, Pain should have been dead to rights with that top tripwire. Was able to survive, no one capitalized off of it, and that's a big thing that we've seen from Resonate. Not a lot of capitalization off of this utility. A free B site now. KHS with an operator. Kaho very low on economics. That could have been a big swing round had they succeeded, but Viper Spit's invested here, and that should call for a save from Resonate's side. This has been really good from Thinking Men. They're playing around this map so well, not really necessarily needing info gathering right away. Thinking Men, they have that confidence to know they can take these opening fights. And again, going back to paying those tripwires really goes to show that, you know, you can take those risky plays and be a little bit more, I suppose, not as safe with these openings as you normally would be. And again, just getting rid of Pain needs to be the #1 thing Resonate can do, but that's the operator lost.
Oh, okay. Eventually takes care of that one. But yeah, I mean, there is just, there's no real, like, velvet border, you know? There's no red tape anywhere right now for Resonate.
Except for A-Main, I would say.
At least, I mean, for the opening to the round, but it doesn't stay that way. Resonate has been spread few and far between too often here, whether it's that tower pick that we've seen 2 or 3 times now, or if it's just a slower take up B and then a rotation over. Eventually, A is always vacated when Thinking Men wants it to be.
I think it's important to remember, too, that this is a very attacker-sided map for both of these teams.
True.
Now, Thinking Men does play a hard stall here. Resonate, though, they got double dive. This is not the side designed for their comp.
Oh, Pain, off that flash. This is the combo we love to see on this team. Andro will shut down half of it, but the other half is close behind and will not let that fly. Kaho, the last standing. The laundry list completely cleaned for Thinking Men in record time, 7-2 now.
Again, Thinking Men have had no problems clearing out B main. Not even really necessarily using utility, just straight up gunfights through and through. That's gonna make things incredibly difficult for the Cypher now, Kaho. You have to keep your utility on A. That means you can't lock down B like a Cypher normally would. And usually that goal goes down to the controller, Velis. Hasn't been able to stop too many with the one-way outside B main. And that also leaves the question of mid. So much utility needs to be invested here from Resonate's side. They have to play for their lives now. They can't play openly aggressive on B at the very least.
They gotta feel a little stuck here, because anytime they do play Denial, Thinking Men will just slow it down and rotate. They've really been able to play the flowchart so far. Pain, another entry, another showstopper, another kill. Kaho the counter before he can fall, but the site is open for business, and without Cypher util, it's gonna take a lot longer for Resonate to be able to clear it, any of it. Luckily, there's a 4-stack in tower, so, you know, one wary piece of util can do a lot of damage here.
Andrew only needs 2 kills to get that showstopper. That would be gigantic to clear space on side site.
A lot of work being done by Scrubble Bubble just to play for time here, but towers left open and not peaked enough here, except for now. KHS peeking out with the operator has got to hold down against this 2 who are going to come out simultaneously, and with not even one downed, the rest of Thinking Men can clean house. Enough on the plate for them to get away with it, but that was looking better for Resonate.
Yeah, great adaptation too from Thinking Men. Not necessarily relying on that Viper wall. For too much counter retake potential through A main hasn't been something Resonate has done yet. They've been funneling more dangerously through top of heaven through screens itself. And again, waiting for those smokes to drop, then pushing in, has left big LOS lines of sight for Resonate to find those picks to defuse the spike. But Thinking Men, they made that big adaptation, holding down A main this time, and allowed Reform to find so much more impact to confirm the round.
Paint's just gonna go in again. Okay, that's a little bit brash from Paint.
That's the confidence right there.
A little bit excited there.
And B's completely open. Reformed again has that gigantic lurk. There's no utility to stop him.
Dude, Paint trolling made Resonate rotate over so quickly that B side is completely open. But Conti does get another kill after Vix now strays a little too far. So they still could just be an error of their ways. Also, yeah, Andrew finally with that showstopper able to make his approach, and Anderson's now caught as well. Resonate, everyone is winning their fights this time around. Everyone's caught in the wrong spot. And so Resonate will be rewarded with a 3rd round here on the defense, already making this half look a lot better.
I mean, that was just capitalizing off of Thinking Men's mistakes. A lot of overconfidence coming out from the team there.
Yeah, a lot.
But what Reform did really just defines how Challengers was played last split. There's been a lot of fakes with big amounts of utility, sacrificing lives even, just for your lurker to confirm the other side of the map is completely empty. Resonate's, like you mentioned before, stuck. You know, the win condition here needs to be playing very proactive and up, but you really can't sacrifice any of these lanes because Reform will find that exploit.
It sucks because without any true flashes, you can't play Denial, and Thinking Men can. So again, it's not about slowdown. It's literally just about winning fights right now for the defense. And Resonate have a lot of trouble doing that when they don't have true flashes.
And that's what they've always relied on, is these opening picks. KHS and Andrew, they usually end up getting like 5-6 opening kills, a lot through their way of making their way to relegations, but I think maybe we've seen 1 or 2 at best from them. Oh, keep in mind too, Reform does have Neural Theft. A very slow round here from Thinking Men, just waiting to see if Resonate get overly anxious here for the final round. Make some sort of impact, overwhelm Thinking Men, but that's not the case. This is so slow from Resonate. And now Conti's only 1 orb away from getting that Resurrect. This is huge from KHS. Could be a big stall, call for the rotate.
KHS, very scary position, really wants to get this one. And still gonna place himself in the back, he's gonna commit to this. But now that there's more here, now that Kaho is here, it's a little bit more manageable, grabs 1. But KHS is smoked out, so he can't play for the trade. Vix gets rid of him, and again, Thinking Men clearing this in chunks. The rest of Resonate is here, but they do not have any space on site. Hell, they don't have any space on tower.
At best, they have to create space with Velas and Smoke.
And you can't, I mean, you can't raw swing tower at this stage in the game. You just can't. Everyone else stuck. No time to save. Paints with an op. Done deal from the jump here for a 9-3. Velas is able to stay alive. Ooh, okay, pop off. But it's a 9-3 half for Thinking Men. Very well done.
And that's the bare minimum for Resonate here. If they had gone any lower, it would have been doomsday already for map number 1. But if they can confirm this opening pistol round, then they can get the buy-up round, in theory. 5-9's pretty manageable. But again, you have a double dive comp. Andrew and KHS, the entire orchestra is based around them. And they have to get this space, they have to get this opening pick right here, right now. This round will set the tempo for the rest of the game. And we can already see those aggressive pings all the way through on A side. A Heaven's the way to go for at least one of these duelists. Big thing too that you have with a Jet and a Raze is that you can hit multiple lines or multiple mains at once by using those space creating utilities. Yeah. You can easily take that A main and Heaven control in 2 different squads.
This is going to be a lethal util dump whenever they attack, but it is going to be lethal. So much that they have to throw at the wall here for both pre and post. The stars can align as long as they find the right time, and A does not look to be the move for that. It's 3 aggressive holders. Nobody even on window right now. So Resonate, they don't see the opening there.
Thinking Men's not a team that over-rotates. They've fallen for these fakes so many times before, through multiple different teams and challengers. And yet there's always those dedicated anchors now, especially Reformed. Yeah. He will stay till the very end. He'll stay until that spike is pretty much detonated.
Yeah. They will pre-crunch, though. They are willing to play for the separate angle, like mid-plant, depending on how quickly they can get there. And Paint can get there pretty quickly. Up to tower as the rest is caged out, and this is the power of having that Sentinel online. But the barrier is going to open things up, per usual for Resonate. You have your players in position, you have a lot of space to work with, you have the spike ticking down. Everything should be fine as long as you win your fights. Andrew will start doing that, grab 2 for himself, but Conti's stuck on spike, and so KHS is the last line of defense from the back line. Can grab only 1, but the timing's just a little too off, so Thinking Men they can re-enter, keep 2 stable, and get their 10th.
Yeah, remember again, these initiations to a site's gonna be very difficult for Resonate. They only have Sage Wall and a Paranoia, and I suppose the Smokes too, to really gain any sort of advantage onto a site outside of Andrew and KHS. And for Thinking Men, remember, this is the time where they took one of 2 maps off of MXS. They were able to play this defense so well, and a lot of that came down to scaling up past the Poison Orb of Viper into mid and take these opening picks. And Resonate, just like Thinking Men, are choosing to almost entirely avoid it, at least thus far. And they force buy here.
Yeah.
That's wild to me. If they lose this, I don't even think they can full buy again for the rest of the game.
It's so over if they lose this. This is such a this is low-key crazy for them.
Oh, is that a bait wire? It is. That's anti-Andrew.
This is very specifically for the team. Thinking Men, once again, it seems like they've read this, but Resonate's doing the damage on site. They understand that these cages and smokes, they're not worth scoping out. It's better to just spray through them, especially in this early period of the half. And it works. Paint's gonna hop in with this shotgun, but can he find a stable angle just barely with the help of Scrubble who's gonna come in and do almost the rest of the work. Lear, just a little bit of damage to do, and he will make it happen. The rest of Thinking Men, the cavalry, will arrive with a little bit to spare, an 11th round under their belt. Resonate, it's so close, but it's not gonna happen this time.
Well, there's no reason for Thinking Men to contest early on. They can go for a free retake and util dump all over Resonate, and they don't really have much of an option other than just battle it out. They don't have much for their post plans here. And Thinking Men, they don't really have to do much in the early rounds. They can allow Resonate to take the site control. There hasn't been an opening fight necessarily until it was an execute. I mean, sure, there's still some mid control here, but look how far back Thinking Men can play now. They don't have much to worry about here at the very least, but B is relatively open. And Velos is looking for those early smokes to allow, oh geez. Look, remember that Moist Shopify map? Paint was just a maniac doing all this stuff with the judge.
He's already up to 20.
He could just continue to rack up those kills doing this. And he found so much information. The fact that Resonate was not in mid, and very little was heard in B. They back away in 3-stack B site. Still waiting to see if there will ever be that push. There's that defensive Viper wall inside of A, and that's a good way of stalling out those 2 pivotal choke points on A site. The tripwires there are designed to block out KHS and the other duelist Andrew as well. But this info from Lear will tell the entire story. Oh, will it? Okay. Look at this, though. Normally, you want to have your Sky on A heaven. The flash comes down, information's gained, that's the lurker. Not the case this time. There has been this staple outside of A site, but there's not a lot of control just yet. Resonate are waiting for the very last second to pounce through B.
Which is a little concerning because from the way that their comp is running, like your MO kind of has to be winning before you plant. Like that, like you don't have a lot of reinitiation, and with all of the smokes and cages that Thinking Men has, they can mold the site to be their own whenever they want to play for it. And so this first fight has to count for everything, and it won't count for anything. Paint getting the 2 lacking, and Lear getting the rest. And to speak on Paint's position in particular with the Raze, that's kind of the beauty of this composition, isn't it? Is that rather than have that enabled duelist, you kind of can just, plop them anywhere and then play around them with everything you have. You have the double controller with Scrubble and Vix, and then you have Reform with his cages. You can gerrymander this map however you want it to, so that Paint can use a shotgun, Paint can use a rifle, Paint can use a pistol if he wants to, and he can find his space to grab his.
And we haven't even seen Scrubblebubble's op yet that he normally rocks out in the defense here. That alone is a Sentinel.
Well, we're just gonna hop right into this. Let's get to 13 now, boys. Let's get it done. Nah. Resonate's gonna duck back into mid, play this long game with all this Viper util that they haven't tried to dry out despite the fact that they've been playing the clock. There's a lot of options here for Resonate, contrary to semi-popular belief. But it's all getting stopped. It's all getting slowed by these smokes, by these cages, by the presence of a Sentinel on, in a spot that still Resonate has not fully confirmed. They didn't even make sure that that these wires are gone yet. They didn't dip that far.
Resonate's just trying to drain the util of Thinking Men before they push in, but they don't know about Paint.
This is one. This is not one. Wow.
That's huge.
14. All right, Andrew, throw your body at the wall, buddy. Oh, especially with that bird. Lear is just buying time. Not only for him, but for Scrubble. Here we go. Spray through the smoke. See what you can find. Oh, there's too much speed. Here's the tailwind, and so everybody's in a bit of a panic mode until Scrubble comes in through the tower and he'll grab 3. That is the stabilization Thinking Men are looking for, and the 13th round. It's a victory here on map number 1.
At the end of the day, Resonate just gave too much respect to Thinking Men. They had the comp perfectly designed to overwhelm just about anybody on that defense, but we never got to see it. And this is something that Thinking Men has struggled a lot all throughout the entire Challenger season. Over and over, we would see teams just start around, double blast pack right into the face of at least one member of Thinking Men, destroy it, and completely break whatever composition or whatever starting strat Thinking Men wanted to employ. Not the case here. There's never been a time that Thinking Men didn't have control of this map.
Yeah, it's really, I don't know, it's kind of cathartic to see in a way, just because Thinking Men are arguably one of the teams that don't deserve to be here either, you know? They're a team that didn't even place at the bottom of their group seating wise. They simply because of the configuration of this playoff, they got placed below YFP because YFP beat them. So they got relegated, even though that group was kind of arguable. So it's got to feel good to have a victory like this to start things out. But going into Ascent, they definitely are a little bit unsure so far this season. They're 0 for 2 there.
Yeah, I mean, speaking about Ascent, right, we saw Conti bring out that Sage Wall back on Split. Conti's been running Ascent Sage too, and normally when you have a more wild comp on Ascent, you have a very good chance of winning it out against the default comp. But the Sage and everything else being the same, I don't think provides that kind of value to really overwhelm or really disturb or break apart Thinking Men. So there's got to be a lot of thinking coming up behind the scenes from Resonate right now. They have to really think about how they want to approach this next map because, yeah, they have the wiggle room of still going down to elimination, but they want to stay in the winner side so bad.
Yeah, well, we'll have a little bit of time for both these teams to reflect on that. We'll see if Resonate can make some noise before dropping down to the lower bracket after this break. Don't go anywhere.
They say in life, there are no guarantees. They say a lot of stuff like that. Slow it down. Play it safe. Hedge your bets. So what? You gonna listen to that? You gonna stop because they can't guarantee you'll pull this off? No guarantee you'll win? No guarantee everything's gonna be fine? In life, you make your own guarantees. Nobody else will light your way. Start your own fire and keep it burning. And we guarantee you'll have one hell of a lifetime.